I apologize for the wreck you might find, might need a little time. Please excuse the mess. Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. I am so happy you're here. Starting this episode off with a little less tears and more of a mess. I will honestly say that the song Excuse the Mess by Ella Langley was pretty much the theme song of my life after moving to Nashville, because I don't know in those first 6 months how my life could have felt any more chaotic and messy than it did at that point in time. And mind you, at this point of moving to Nashville, I had already established a life and a successful career and had a husband. So it's not like I expected to have such a messy life as a grown woman. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just wouldn't have ever imagined that I would be going through the messes that I did at this point in my life. I would never have been able to put that on, what do they say, my bingo card. Definitely was not expected. So I'm going to get into kind of the thought process and just hopefully make you laugh, smile, or be like, this girl is wildly out of control with this episode, to kind of just bring a little bit of the reality of what it's like to go from being born and raised in Utah, only ever living there, being with someone since your early 20s, and now moving to a new place, no friends, and just trying to navigate, like, not only like making new friends, but also like being back out there, meeting new men and like meeting people out in the wild. And you're like, I mean, I'm balancing trying to like make friends, and I've always had like male friends in my circle. Back home, we had guy friends. My husband's friends were my ex-husband's friends were my friends. And so that was really natural to me, but now I have no friends at all. And so sometimes I'm literally talking to men as a friend and have to learn that that's not always what they think is coming from this. So there was just so many stories of chaos and almost like learning again all these years later, things that I guess you would expect to only happen like maybe in your early 20s, and then there's still a reality even now. So where do I begin? There's so many. I think one of the first ones where I was like, "Oh, okay. This has never happened to me." I am at so I'm having a night. This is probably July of 2023, and I had made one really good friend at the time, and she had lived in Nashville for like 7 years, so she kind of knew the town more, but she wasn't going out as much. But we kind of just ended up just doing the thing together. So she was, she had a breakup, probably 6, 7 months prior. So she was finally ready to be back on the town, and I had no friends. So I was like, take me on the town. I have not had anyone to go on the town with. So this is July. So I moved in March. So 3 months after I get here, and we're painting the town one night. And we had done that many actually. And the thing about Nashville, for my Utah listeners, which I learn are the majority of my people, so thank you so much. And then Nashville, I love you. You're next. But it's just such a different city. Like, it's not anything like there's nothing in Utah that I'm like, yeah, it's just like the same as Tennessee or same as Nashville. Like, there's no it's not even kind of. It's not even kind of the same. So for me, it was just such a drastic, like if I would have moved to Idaho or, Arizona, even like there's some similarities, but like Tennessee and Utah aren't at all alike. So it was very much this like new world for me. And it's super like transplants and touristy. So it's just always like a melting pot of people you're going to meet. And so we met like a ton of different guys like on bachelorette parties. And those are always an adventure because they're just out to paint the town. But this particular night, we end up at Red Door. I talk about that bar a lot. So my Utah peeps, you have to go if you come out to Nashville. But we end up at Red Door and, we probably had a night of drinking and I'm there and we meet a couple of guys and they're originally from Texas. One is in a band. And this is like early on where pretty much anybody in Red Door, I would say a big majority is some kind of like musician, songwriter, something. At least I would say that's pretty true. And so we're talking and she decides she's going to go. It's pretty late at the end of the night. It's one of the bars that's open the latest. So we're there. She says she's going to go, but I had been talking to these two guys for a good minute. It was a buddy or a buddy, wasn't my buddy. I just met him. He was in a band in Tennessee, like in Nashville. He lived there, but he's from Texas. He had a friend in town, I think also from Texas. We were just talking music. That was just me. And I love that stuff. So she decides to leave. So I'm talking to these two guys, and it'd probably been a good 45 minutes plus. And one guy's just, we're vibing, but I'm not thinking of him like that at all. I'm just talking about music. And suddenly, like, he says some comment like, "Oh my gosh, you're so down to earth. You're so cool. You're way cooler than my ex. She's so high maintenance and uptight and yada, yada, yada." So then that comment alone makes me think, all right, is this like now we're not friends? Is he hitting on me? Because now I'm navigating this new thing. So my hand's like on the stool and or on the tabletop, and he moves his hand on top of mine. Don't mind you, it was probably less than 30 seconds. Kylie Jenner clone hustles over to where I am. Like, came out of nowhere. Literally, she teleported there. I don't even know. And I'm like, I look over and he's sitting down facing me. I'm standing, his friend's standing next to me. And she's looking at me directly where he's looking at me. She's looking at me. I'm standing. And she's like, looks down at his hand, which he had like quickly moved, but my hand was still there, and was like, "What is this?" And I like froze because I was like, I'm alone in this bar. Am I getting confronted by this girl? Like, I don't know what this is. I didn't do it. I just put my hand on it. She goes, "What is this?" Again, because I don't know what to say. And I go, I don't know. Like, I literally don't know what to say. And she goes, "Well, this is my boyfriend. So I don't know what you're doing." And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. But if that was my boyfriend, I wouldn't really want him talking to me the way that he is. And the rest is kind of like a blur. She's furious. This man is not saying anything. He says nothing. He's literally saying nothing. She's not saying anything to him. It's literally like my fault. And it's so awkward. And the buddy of his, kind as can be, is just standing there this whole time. And I think I'm just like blanking out at this point because I'm like, what is happening? And I just am like, okay, like, all right. And she somehow storms off, don't even know. And I mean, I appreciate that she wasn't like cussing at me, but it was just weird. So after she walks off, the guy looks at me, the hand toucher in the band, and he goes, "Well, that was weird." And I'm like, "What? Like, is that your girlfriend or not? Like, what is happening?" But I don't even want to ask him because I literally don't care. So I turn over and look at his buddy and say, "Well, it was so great to meet you." And then I walk off because I'm like, why is this guy putting me in this weird situation? Like, I'm literally just talking to y'all. So after that, probably because there was either tequila or beers involved, I am alone in this bar, and now this Kylie Jenner clone is there, and I have no idea where. And because it's pretty busy. So I call my friend that had just left, and I just start crying. Gosh, I'm such a baby. Literally, if you guys want to play a drinking game, listen to my podcast and drink every time I say I cried, because that's how bad it is. But so I start crying, and she's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I don't know. You know, those guys I was talking to, the one touched my hand and a girl ran over." And then she started saying, "What da da da." She's like, "Girl, if I was there, I would have said this, this." I was like, "I don't even care about that. I just don't know." She's like, "Order an Uber. Just order an Uber and it'll be fine. You'll be good." And I was like, "Okay." So I order an Uber, and I'm waiting for it. And I'm like suddenly reconfronted by Kylie Jenner, clone ish. And she is like, "What was that about?" And I'm like, Literally, nothing." She's like, "You can just tell me." And I'm like, there was nothing." And she's like, "Please don't follow him on Instagram. Please don't talk to him again. Like, please." And I was like, "Girl, I have no desire to talk to that man again. I do not care. I think maybe for you, maybe it wouldn't be the best scenario." She goes, "Well, what did he say?" And I go, "I don't." She goes, "What did he say?" I said, "Well, he said his ex was high maintenance. So if anything led me to believe he had an ex." And she goes, "Well, I'm not high maintenance. He likes this. He tells me he da, da." And granted, me and this girl are polar opposites. This girl is early 20s for sure. Definitely, I mean, I'm saying Kylie Jenner, so you get the visual, like lips, boobs, things that I do not have. And we're not the same. And she's like, "Well, how old are you?" And I was like, "Is that relevant?" She's like, "I guess he does like older women than me." And I was like, don't, I don't know if this even matters, because I have no interest in this man. But and then she kind of goes into a little bit about like their relationship. And I'm like, "Girl, you deserve the world. So if you're not happy, it's not, it's not about any of that. I don't even matter. Y'all should just figure that out without me." And she kind of calms down, and she realizes probably that I really don't have any interest in stealing any woman's man, let alone one that is allowing this scene to happen at Red Door. So she's like, "Okay." So I leave. And mind you, I live in Nashville and I've been out a lot. So I've seen this couple again, and I'm rooting for them. But in this moment, this story, I was just like, is this my life? What is being single in Nashville? Like, where was your girlfriend for the 45 minutes we were talking? Is it your girlfriend? Like, I don't care about their relationship in general. I'm just like, what planet am I on? Like, what planet am girlfriend and boyfriend at the same bar together, and then I'm talking to him for 45 minutes to an hour with her not in sight until suddenly he touches my hand? Why are you touching my hand? And why were you watching for 45 minutes? Like, I'm confused about everything. And that's when I'm like, if I'm going to be out here dating, which I really had no desire, but just communicating with people out in the wild, like, is this what I'm in for? Is this what I'm in for? So enter the next similar story. And like, you've got to think, like, I haven't been single in so long that I'm just not even like aware that this is a thing. And like, the guy wasn't that young. Like, she was early 20s, but he was like older. So like, I'm just like, is this like, I don't know. So it doesn't really matter because I'm just trying to take notes. I'm literally like the student of life. I have this new life now. I'm single. I'm in a new city. I'm just trying to figure out life, taking notes. Don't date a musician, which I wasn't even trying to, but I've heard that a lot. And I never want to blanketly say that about everyone. I would not say that to be a true statement. You can do whatever you want. But it started becoming more of an awareness theme. But then I'm like, well, maybe it's like don't date a musician because everyone in Nashville pretty much is a musician. And so whether they're good or bad, like the odds are not in their favor because there's more musicians than anything else out here. Right. And there's so many beautiful girls in Nashville. Like, believe me, it's beautiful. I mean, Utah has so many too. So I don't know. Wherever you go, girls are just pretty. And I love that for them. Y'all are pretty. If you're listening, girls, y'all pretty. And men, you just got to take care of the right one for you. Okay, enough of that. So enter my second, like, what is happening Nashville out in the wild story. So when I get back from Utah, I was like, Losers, my other favorite Midtown bar, was doing this like show outside. And like, I was like, I gotta go. I literally landed in BNA, took an Uber back, like dropped off my stuff and headed to Losers that night. I was tired AF, but I was like, I'm not missing this outdoor show. It was like their birthday celebration. And I missed Morgan Wallen performed there, I guess. Like it was wild. And when I got there, it was like, I'm trying to remember who it was. Randy Houser was performing, but it was still great. Like it was a great time. We were all getting into it. We're outside, but I was by myself. Like literally, I just came from the airport and I had missed Nashville. Being in Utah for 2 weeks, I was like, bring me back to Nashville. And I love Utah, but the energy and the vibe is different. So I was like, I'm going to this show. So I go by myself and I after the show, I go into Losers because one of my buddies plays in the band there. And so I was like, yeah, I will go in and watch him or whatever. And I just love that bar either way. So I go in and I'm just dancing. And if you are in Nashville and you know me, you probably know that I'm always dancing at Losers when I'm there. So I'm at Losers dancing. And the next thing you know, this guy's kind of like creeping, but he's not like a creep, but like creeping in my area, my vicinity. And he's younger. And whatever. So I see him, hey, whatever. And I'm just dancing, but he's like kind of not giving up on this. So, we start talking and I'm like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. What do and he doesn't really throw out that he's in a band. He doesn't really make it seem, I said, oh, what do you do? I said, do you live here? He said, oh no, I live in Texas. So another Texas musician, but this one doesn't live in Nashville, but he's here. Well, I don't know at the time that he's here to play a show somewhere the next day or whatever, but I learned later. But at this moment, he's just like, oh, I'm here for work. And I was like, oh, cool, whatever. So we're talking and, hanging out and dancing and whatever. And, he's he's cute. I mean, he's definitely younger. He's cute. He's fun. And I'm like definitely more like a vibe girl. So he's fun. Like he has these kind of mesmerizing eyes, and I think they sucked me in. So I'm giving him like the chance, and we're hanging out. So we end up leaving. He gets me to leave Losers and go to Red Door at the end of the night. Again, that's kind of the theme. So we go over to Red Door, and he has this other friend there, and this friend's like he looks like he's something, but I don't really know what. And because I don't know who he is. Because again, I'm still like new and I don't know and I don't care. I came from like corporate world where, like, yeah, I'm not really like overwhelmed by like anybody being an influencer. Like that's not really something that makes me go, oh my gosh, how cool. Not that I don't respect it, just that I'm saying I'm not overly like I don't know what word I would use, obsessed, infatuated, give it any kind of more thought than any other Joe Smo. we all have things we do to make money or give back to the world, right? That's our purpose. But so I can tell he like has that like vibe. So I was talking to him and he was like, and his other buddy, the one that with the nice eyes, is like, oh yeah, he's like famous. And I was like, oh cool, you're famous, like meh. And he was like, yeah, and so, and it's like funny because I don't even know how to define fame, but it like in my mind, like in Utah, like these are just not conversations people are having at the bar. And like, it's just not conversations that are ever like randomly coming up like, oh, do you know him? He's an influencer. Oh, he's in a band. So they're basically bantering back and forth about who's cooler, who's more not like kind of who's more famous. But I feel like that's a big word, not like an A-list famous, just like famous, maybe back in Texas. And so I'm like, oh, cool, cool. That's awesome. Like you got like, it's so good for you guys, like following your dreams and like making things happen. Like that's amazing. Cause I'm never going to sell that short. Go do you, whatever you want to do. Love that. So anyways, we're hanging out. And then the guy, Nice Eyes, is like, well, my band's not going to be here till tomorrow. Do you want to come hang out at my Airbnb? And I was like, but then he's inviting, Mr. Cool and Calm, I'll call him. And I'm like, too, which he was actually a cool guy. So I was like, okay, so it's like a group thing. So me, Nice Eyes, and Calm, Cool Cowboy guy, we all go back to this Airbnb. And we're just kind of hanging out, and it has this cool rooftop. And I was like, to Cool Calm Cowboy, I'm like, are you like an artist too? Like, he's like, no. And I was like, oh. So I probably was like a little bit tipsy enough to be somehow bring up the topic that, and at this time, I don't even realize that Nice Eyes is like really in a band. I don't know what I'm thinking. Cause again, this is all just doesn't matter to me. It's just like these people that I'm hanging out with. And I mention, oh, well, I can rap. And I don't know because I literally have not done that in so long. And that was a thing that maybe people are learning now that was kind of like me in my early 20s. And it's because for me, I thought it was. And now I'm learning from songwriters, not everyone can freestyle, which I kind of just thought because I didn't know a ton of songwriters back home in Utah. So I literally thought that if you were a songwriter and you could write songs, you could probably freestyle because that's how your mind thought. Like you thought in rhymes and you could quickly just come out with lyrics. And that's why you could freestyle. Because I had literally been rapping and putting freestyles over lyrics for like probably since one of Eminem's early albums came out. So, because I just like to write, so I just wanted to make up my own lyrics, and it was like fun to free flow, like to flow over them. So I don't usually like tell people that because it feels very unfitting to my personality, but like it's something I can do. Like I'm kind of cringing that I'm even telling the world this, but it's something I can do, and I should be like, what's wrong with that? It's just something I can do. So I tell him, oh, you want to rap? So he's like, okay, you go first. And I say, okay, give me a topic. He says politics, which I feel like is the worst worst. Why is anyone doing that? Because I literally am I don't get all into that. So I say, "Ugh, okay. He's like, if you can't do it, so you don't tell me I can't do something because that's where I'll do it. So I go off, and it was actually insanely good if I gave myself credit for once because it's been a while. I stopped. He literally got up, turned around, and said, he looked at me and I said, well, now it's your turn. He goes, nah, I didn't think you'd be that good. And he walked off. So that was a fun night. So, we're having a good old time. It's time for bed. It's probably 3 or 4 in the morning. So it was already time for bed. So I head over with Nice Eyes to pass out and do the thing. And not do the thing. Sorry. No things were done, but to go to bed because I'm not going home at this hour. And so I guess I could have, but I was kind of like, well, Nice Eyes has been dinking around. We've all been having fun. It's fine. So like the next morning, I'm like, I, it was kind of like weird. I was kind of like vibing something the whole time with him. Like something was like, that's why I was like very distancing myself. And he had added, and I didn't think of it, like, but he had added like him and his band on my Instagram. He like had me follow them when we were at Losers, and I kind of forgot. So I leave in the morning and I'm in my Uber and I am just looking at my posts from the night before I had posted a story. And I don't usually look like to see anyone specifics looking at my story, but I usually notice if it's someone new, like that I don't know, like, oh, do I know this person? Whatever. So some girl that I didn't know had looked at my story. So of course, and I'm sitting in an Uber. So what else are you going to do? Like, well, we're looking at Instagram. So I look at the story. This girl, I find that she has all these pictures with him and her. But it was like the last one was like, this was in September. I think the last one she had was like early in the year. So I was like, oh, maybe they broke up. No, this girl kept watching all my stories forever. Not really forever, but for a minute. Then I almost didn't even want I should have just removed him as a follower because he didn't even like follow me back, which doesn't even matter. That's so like, but anyways, this is just mine's things that I never thought of before I was divorced and all these things. But then like the next day he posts a post and the very last picture in the post, number 10, is him and her. And I'm like, this is it. This is what we're working with. Like, this is what we're working with. So of course, then I unfollowed him, whatever. But I was like, and like, men, if you're listening, I still am rooting for y'all. I know you're all not like this, but I had to learn there was this because my mind's like, everybody, we're good. And I was like, why am I getting these other interactions? But it's fine. Because what I realized, because I'll wrap this up because I have a million more of these messy kind of stories, but is that I feel like sometimes we all like make a decision about what we think we want. It feels good, it's comfortable, whether we've been with someone for a long time, which I mean, even in the first story that Kylie Jenner clone said, well, I couldn't leave him. I've been with him for 5 years. And I'm thinking in my head, like, if it's not meant to be 5 years, like, why give 5 more? And I'm not saying this because I don't believe in love or any of that, because I do. But what I'm saying is I think sometimes we just get wrapped up in the idea that like we just have to stick with something that we gave time to, even if it's not what we want anymore. Because I truly want to believe that if it's meant for us and we're happy with it, we're not going to seek something else. And I don't just mean in a relationship. I mean that in your career. If you love your job, whether you're an entrepreneur, a musician, you have a corporate job that you just crush it and you love it, you're not putting resumes out there. You're not trying to find a different business to buy. You're not seeing if you can get a 9 to 5 instead of playing music. If that's what you truly love and want for your life, and it's what you feel like is meant for you, I don't think you're out there dipping your toes in other waters. I don't. And I'm not saying I know all the answers, but I'm saying that it just I think in our lives, I'll try to make this be a little meaningful instead of just chaotic. But for me, I had to learn that like a lot of us are doing life and staying in places that are comfortable because we're fearful of like just like never mind and changing it up. I know that girl that was stalking my Instagram knew that I spent time with him. She was even found my page. She knew all of his new followers. Like someone I brought that up was like, how'd she even find me? It's like, oh, well, there's girls that actually like monitor their boyfriend's followers if there's a new one they know. I was like, what? I don't even, and these are all these new things I learn that makes me feel like, makes me think differently as I'm trying to like do life. And it's just like, okay, social media is its own topic, but that's for another time. But just in life, like if these people, that's not how it should feel. It shouldn't feel like you have to be worried and watching and wondering and thinking. And whether it's has to do with being faithful or whether it has to do with honesty or whether it has to do with any of those things, like if you don't love it, you can leave it. Anything in your life. If it's not what makes you feel good, if you don't feel good doing that job, being in that place, being with that partner, having that friend, going out to that bar, like if those things, like you've just always done them, but they don't make you feel good or they make you feel bad more than good, you don't owe yourself or anything. You don't owe anyone to stay like that. Just let it be. So I'll end this that just kind of saying that what is meant for you. And this is okay, this is not me saying this is young Pueblo, the Arthur. You should get this book. It's so good. The Way Forward. But it's he says unpopular truth, what's meant for you will sometimes feel scary, risky, and new. Ease and calm don't always mean you're moving in the right direction. The biggest rewards usually come from having the guts and perseverance to create your own path. When you take the risk to leave that thing that doesn't make you feel good, even if it's comfortable, you can start getting one step closer to what's meant for you. I truly believe that. And I hope you give yourself enough credit to know that you deserve that too. Thank you for listening to my mess. This was Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. You matter.